Welcome to the video. If you've been here before, you will recognize that I am officially back home from my writing residency in Ireland, which is both exciting and bittersweet. But that being said, I'm going to be your tour guide of sorts today because come to find out, I did not do a very good job of introing my travel vlogs. If you're new here, hi, I'm Caitlin. I'm a fantasy writer and I hope to be published one day. I've been a writer my entire life. Even before I even really knew how to write, I was telling stories and living in my imagination. And last year I decided that I was finally going to make my dreams a reality, and I wrote a book. This is it. Well, this is the first draft of my novel. This is Sir Callan Gray's Final Lament. It's a fantasy memoir that follows a disgraced medieval knight as he recounts to a time-traveling journalist what went wrong on his final quest. While I was working on my book in Ireland, I did a little bit of traveling around too, and I went to a lot of places that are just indescribable. And even though I was solo traveling, I never felt truly alone because I always had you with me, and we were sort of traveling together. So without further ado, here is the first official travel day where I went to a small seaside town called Crosshaven. Well, I made it to Crosshaven. It's really cute. We got here a little bit earlier than we were supposed to, so Camden Fort isn't open. So right now I'm just kind of walking down this beautiful trail that kind of runs by the water. This is gonna be a tough hill to go back up though. Hold on. I don't know if that does it justice at all. This honestly looks like a really great spot to maybe sit and write for a little bit while I wait. Not a walking path, it is like a trail into a neighborhood, so we're turning around. Real nice of them to put this bench right here at the top. Oh my god. Earlier I saw a guy get to the top where I am and like stand right here at the fence and just like take a minute to breathe. That's why I thought it was like just a regular trail, but also now I get it, dude. That is a hill.
Nobody saw us silently floating out at some hotel in rural Wyoming. Nobody saw us secretly hoping we would have disappeared. But one day, moon sing, I will think of then. Distant prairie eyes, skipping western skies, then running off alone again. Nobody sees me here in this concrete, washing my dishes, hanging my laundry. Nobody needs me as much as I need them, constantly leaving, constantly leaving you one day.
was way too windy to hear me in this clip, but I was just letting you guys know that they run free tours, but the first one was in an hour, and I wasn't sure if I was going to stay for it or not. And I said so. We'll see. While we're going down into the scary tunnels, I thought I'd pop in to give you a little more information about the fort I'm visiting today.
It's not creepy at all.
This is Camden Fort Mager. It is a coastal defense fort in Crosshaven, which is located in County Cork, and it's about a 30-minute drive from Cork City. According to Wikipedia, the fort was built in the 16th century and was originally operated by the British Armed Forces until it was turned over to the Irish Armed Forces in 1938. When it was handed over, the Irish renamed Camden Fort to Fort Mager after Thomas Francis Mager, who was a young leader of the Irish Rebellion. The fort was originally built to protect the mouth of Cork's Harbour, which is one of the largest natural harbours in the world. From what I could find, Camden Fort Mager did not see much in the way of battle as opposed to its sister fort, James Battery, located in Kinsale Harbour. However, according to the website Rescue Camden, in 1690, the fort was reinforced for the Williamite conflict and was supposed to be used to fire on a Williamite fleet as it entered Cork Harbour, but a secret party was sent ashore to attack the fort from the landward side, and it fell to the Williamite invaders. By the 1830s, the fort was no longer used for defense and was instead briefly repurposed as a prison. By the late 20th century, the fort was viewed as a token fort and was primarily used for training purposes until it was eventually handed over to Cork County Council. The facility remained disused and overgrown until a group of volunteers decided to restore the fort in 2010. They have a very cool exhibit of the before and after photos that I'll show you later. Today, the fort makes for a wonderful stop for tourists to get some views of the Atlantic, to walk through the winding maze of underground tunnels, to view miniature exhibits inside of old bunk rooms, and for a fantasy writer like myself, to get inspired by the architecture and location. The underground parts of this fort were pretty cool to see too, and the room that we're in right now is what's known as the magazine. It's where the soldiers would keep all the gunpowder and ammunition and explosives so that if there ever was an attack, their supplies would hopefully stay dry and unharmed. And a quick side note, I got scared by this mannequin a few times, but I actually loved him. His uniform is quite dapper, and even if he did come to life in the middle of the night, I'm sure he'd be nice. I overheard one of the workers mention that the staircase didn't originally have a handrail, that it was added in later when being restored, and things like this always make me wonder how many stair accidents were going on in the old days, because I've walked up and down narrow staircases in old castles, and it's scary. And you have to think that in the old times, there's probably tons of servants going up and down at the same time. Like, how are they not falling? This was one of the old bunk rooms, and it was really cool to see the old beds, and I was laughing because they had a table where the soldiers would play games, but it was filled with modern day games, and I just thought that was funny. One of the coolest things about this particular exhibit was the old trunk that they had, filled with typical things that a soldier might have had in those days, like playing cards and shoe shine, a razor, a mini first aid kit. When I first saw this bridge, I immediately felt like I was in The Last of Us or Jurassic Park. These are the before and after photos, and as you guys can see, they did a wonderful job of restoring this fort. As I was walking around, I kept thinking how well preserved it was, only to find out later that it wasn't. And it was the passion of a group of volunteers who brought it back to life. There were also a lot of miniature exhibits, like I mentioned earlier, and I actually wasn't sure who the artist was or if it was a collaboration, and so I googled it later to find out it's actually the work of Garrison Model Club, which is a group made up of amateur model enthusiasts. And this was a visual timeline of World War I, and it was really, really cool to see, and I'm very impressed that these people just do this for fun. While editing this video, I was doing a bit more research on the fort and found out that the old casement rooms were actually recently renovated in 2023 and 2024. Now each room has a theme and is filled with memorabilia. This was the naval room. They also had the World War I memorial and a collection of military models, which I was looking at right now. That was really fun. I don't think I'm going to stay for the tour. I think I'm going to go do the cliff walk. So let's go do that. And maybe we'll find a cafe at the end. I'm seeing benches again. I don't know, does that look bad? It's also been a while since I've done a Q&A, and I had y'all ask me some questions over on the community page, and I thought this would be a really fun time to answer them. The first question was one I got a lot, which was, how did I find my free accommodation? I won't say exactly what I used just for privacy reasons, but there are plenty of places to look for accommodation in exchange for house or pet sitting if you also want to do something like this. Trusted house sitters is a big one. There's also house exchange or even house and home sitters if you want to go to UK specific places. But you can also find gigs through Facebook groups, and obviously please use your best judgment and take precautions to keep yourself safe from any of those. I personally looked at people's profiles on Facebook or Instagram just to make sure they were a real person, and I would recommend asking for references from other sitters or getting in contact with them directly as well. The next question was, what are your writing goals for your time in Ireland? I would love to say that I had a solid plan, but I really didn't. I wanted to give myself the creative freedom to work on whatever I wanted, and I toyed with the idea of drafting something new, continuing draft 2 of Project Lament, or even bouncing back and forth between those two, and what ended up happening was a lot of brainstorming for Project Lament. I slowly worked through a ton of chapters and found a lot of fills to some of the plot holes for part 2 that I hadn't even considered since initially drafting. Some people were curious as to why I picked Ireland, but it really is just a magical place, and I loved my time here with my mom, and I had been wanting to go back, and I felt that it was going to be a really good spot to re-spark some creativity. The original plot for Project Lament was also inspired by a Gaelic folktale, and though it's definitely taken on a life of its own and deviated from that original source, it was still really fun to connect to my story in that way. I'm about to start heading back, so we'll take a brief intermission from the questions. I really don't want to go back up that hill. Oh well, let's go. Everything stops for I'm sitting on one of the benches. Okay, let's go.
Don't be frowning, baby. You know I love you time and time again. Yeah.
Hey, so just because map says it's walkable doesn't actually mean that there are sidewalks. Currently just walking in the road. A few of you also asked about what I've been reading lately. I just finished The Ministry of Time by Kaylee Ann Bradley. I hope I said her first name right, which I thought was really good. It was more of a cozy romance with time travel elements than it was a book about time traveling, like some people were saying. And though reviews are really mixed about the ending, I personally didn't mind the way things played out, but I can totally understand why some people maybe didn't like it if they were expecting it to be more sci-fi heavy. I also loved how Bradley wrote descriptions, specifically weather and time. It was very unique. And if you've read it, I would love to know your thoughts about it in the comments below. My main takeaway was that the author loved her thesaurus, and I really need to brush up on my vocabulary. After a long morning spent traipsing around Camden Fort and exploring the rocky shores of Crabal Bay Beach, I ended up taking the scenic route through the center of town, which was also just in the road. Crosshaven, do better. And I ended up at Priory Coffee, which became my favorite coffee shop during my entire stay in Ireland. The customer service was beyond excellent, and this was the best spicy chai and chocolate chip muffin that I've ever had. And at first I thought it was just because I was insanely hungry and dehydrated, but I did go back several times and can confirm it was amazing. After writing for the rest of the day, I decided to grab another chai and muffin for the road, and then I walked across the street to the Royal York Yacht Club, which is actually the oldest yacht club in the world, founded in 1720. From there, I caught a bus back to Cork and spent the rest of the evening cozied up and writing. Thank you all for hanging out with me. I hope you had fun. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. I have a lot of cozy travel vlogs to catch up on, so if you liked this type of content, you'll definitely want to hang around. We'll be seeing castles and wildlife and some pretty cool coastal views. Your support means everything to me, so thank you so much. And if you have the means and would like to fuel my dream of becoming a published author, I will have the link to my Ko-fi down below. Also, if you liked my book cover design, I am accepting new clients, and I will have the link to commission me on Contra down in the description as well. I hope everyone is doing great, and if you have ever toyed with the idea of writing a novel, I hope you're getting ready to join me for the November drafting challenge. You literally won't regret it. It is so much fun, even though it is pretty chaotic, but it is so supportive, and I would love to cheer you on. And with that, I will see you all in the next one. Happy writing.